Carrie Rawson had a lot to say during a 2-hour podcast. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Scott.
And I'm Deb Ferris. She talked about everything.
Imagine living next door to someone for years. You wave to them every morning. You chat about the weather. Your kids play together. They help you carry groceries. They seem like the perfect neighbor. Now imagine discovering that this same person, the one you trusted, the one who smiled at your family,
Podcast interview with Carrie Rawson on Surviving the Survivor. Go to our website, kick.com. Live in studio, Leon Purvis.
was responsible for some of the most horrific crimes you could ever imagine. This isn't fiction. This is the terrifying reality of BTK, Dennis Rader, a serial killer who murdered 10 people while living an utterly ordinary life in Wichita, Kansas. For over 30 years, he was a husband, a father, a church president, and a trusted member of his community. And for over 30 years, he was also a monster hiding in plain sight. Dennis Rader was born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and grew up in Wichita. To everyone who knew him, he seemed completely normal. He served in the Air Force, married his wife Paula in 1971, and they had 2 children together. He worked for ADT Security Services, ironically installing security alarms in people's homes. Later, he became a compliance officer for Park City, enforcing municipal codes and regulations. He was active in his Lutheran church, serving as president of the Congregation Council. He was a Boy Scout leader. He attended his children's school events. By all outward appearances, Dennis Rader was the embodiment of middle American normalcy. But beneath this facade lurked something deeply disturbed. From childhood, Rader had fantasized about binding, torturing, and killing people. These weren't passing thoughts. They were obsessions that consumed him. He would later admit to torturing and killing animals as a child, a common early warning sign that behavioral experts associate with serial killers. As he grew older, these fantasies intensified, and eventually they weren't enough. He needed to make them real. On January 15, 1974, Dennis Rader chose his first victims. The Oduro family had just moved to Wichita from Puerto Rico, hoping to start a new life. Joseph Oduro, his wife Julie, and 3 of their 5 children were home that morning when Rader broke in. What happened next was almost incomprehensible in its cruelty. Rader murdered Joseph, Julie, their 9-year-old son Joseph Jr., and their 11-year-old daughter Josephine. He strangled them methodically, one by one. For Josephine, he hanged her in the basement, photographing her body afterward. The 3 other Otro children who were at school that day came home to find their family slaughtered. Rader later described feeling a rush of satisfaction, a sexual thrill from the murders. But what made it even more chilling was what he did next. He simply went home, had lunch with his wife, and carried on with his day as if nothing had happened. The murders sent shockwaves through Wichita. This level of violence was unprecedented for the quiet Midwestern city. Police had few leads. There were no witnesses, no clear motive, and no suspect. Rader had been careful, methodical. He had planned everything down to the smallest detail, and he got away with it. But getting away with it wasn't enough for Dennis Rader. He craved recognition. He wanted the world to know what he had done. In October 1974, Rader placed a letter inside a book at the Wichita Public Library. The letter described the Oduro murders in detail that only the killer could know. He gave himself a name, BTK, which stood for bind, torture, kill. It was how he described his method, his signature. The letter was eventually found and turned over to police, and suddenly, Wichita knew they had a serial killer in their midst. The media coverage was extensive, and Rader loved every minute of it. He was finally getting the attention he craved. Over the next few years, BTK continued his killing spree. In April 1974, he murdered Catherine Bright, stabbing her multiple times while she fought desperately for her life. In March 1977, he killed Shirley Vian Relford after binding her 3 young children in the bathroom. In December 1977, he strangled Nancy Fox in her home, then called the police from a payphone to report the murder himself, directing them to her body. Each murder was carefully planned. Rader would stalk his victims for weeks, learning their routines, watching their homes, waiting for the perfect moment. He kept trophies from his victims, items of clothing and jewelry that he would use later to relive the murders in his fantasies. But then something strange happened. After 1979, BTK went silent. The murders stopped. The communication ceased. For years, investigators and the public wondered what happened to BTK. Had he moved away? Had he been imprisoned for another crime? Had he died? The case went cold, and eventually many people began to assume the killer was gone. But Dennis Rader wasn't gone. He was still right there in Wichita, living his double life. He continued working, attending church, raising his children. He simply had enough self-control to stop killing. At least family had no idea. His coworkers had no idea. His church congregation had no idea. He was the definition of hiding in plain sight. In 1985, Rader broke his silence with one more murder. He killed Maureen Hedge, a neighbor who lived just 6 doors down from him. Then, in 1986, he murdered Vicky Waygirl, and in 1991, Dolores Davis became his 10th and final known victim. After each murder, Rader returned to his normal life without missing a beat. He attended his children's graduations, went to work enforcing city codes, led church services. The disconnect between his two lives was absolute, and then BTK went silent again. This time for 13 years. The case grew even colder. The original investigators retired. New detectives took over. The community slowly began to heal, though the families of the victims never forgot. But in 2004, everything changed. On the 30th anniversary of the Otero murders, a Wichita newspaper ran a series of articles about the BTK case. Dennis Rader read those articles, and his ego couldn't handle being forgotten. He wanted the world to remember BTK, so he started communicating again. Between 2004 and 2005, Rader sent multiple communications to the media and police. He sent packages containing victim identification cards, photographs, word puzzles, and dolls positioned to recreate his crime scenes. Each communication was designed to taunt investigators and prove that BTK was back. The police were ready this time. They had decades of advances in forensic technology, psychological profiling, and investigative techniques. They began analyzing every communication for clues. Then, Rader made a fatal mistake. In February 2005, he sent a floppy disk to a television station, asking in an earlier letter if it was possible to trace information from a disk. The police had told him through a newspaper ad that it was safe. They lied. When investigators examined the disk, they found metadata from a deleted Microsoft Word document. The metadata showed the document had been created by someone named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church. A simple internet search led them to Dennis Rader, president of the church council. Police quickly obtained a DNA sample from Rader's daughter from a previous medical procedure. It matched DNA recovered from BTK crime scenes. The monster who had terrorized Wichita for 3 decades was finally identified. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested near his home. He seemed almost relieved. When detectives asked if he was BTK, he calmly replied, "Yes." During his interrogation, Rader spoke about his crimes with disturbing casualness, showing no remorse whatsoever. He pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder, avoiding the death penalty because Kansas didn't have capital punishment during the years of his crimes. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole for at least 175 years. He is currently serving his sentence at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. The BTK case serves as a haunting reminder that evil doesn't always look like what we expect. It doesn't always lurk in shadows or stand out in a crowd. Sometimes, it lives next door. It shops at the same grocery store. It sits in the same church pew. Dennis Rader lived 2 lives with such completeness that even his own family was shocked when the truth came out. His wife divorced him immediately. His children have had to live with the horror of learning their father was a serial killer. The community of Wichita had to reconcile the helpful compliance officer and church leader with the brutal murderer who had terrorized them for decades. If this story has gripped you, if you want to hear more deep dives into cases that shock and fascinate, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you real stories, meticulously researched and powerfully told. Don't forget to smash that like button and turn on notifications so you never miss when we upload. The truth is always stranger and more terrifying than fiction, and we're here to bring it to you. Subscribe now and join us as we explore the darkest corners of human nature. We'll see you in the next one.